The scent of expensive lilies hung thick beneath the ancient marble arches of Santa Maria della Pieta, each bloom a mocking reminder of traditions I'd been taught to honor. My hands trembled against the cascading silk of my ball gown, the pristine white fabric suddenly feeling less like a symbol of purity and more like a shroud. Whispers slithered through the pews behind me. Aristocratic Italian families who'd come to witness a union between old money and new respectability, their judgment sharpening with each minute Terezio Bruno failed to appear. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories. And trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's go back to hours before, where it all started. Fridiana, perhaps we should. My cousin Bianca murmured, her gloved hand hovering near my bare shoulder, but not quite touching, as if my humiliation might be contagious. I couldn't respond. My throat had closed around words that refused to form. The phone hidden in my bouquet had buzzed 20 minutes earlier with a message I'd been too terrified to fully read. But I'd glimpsed enough. El debito. I can't. I'm running. The cathedral's massive oak doors exploded inward with violence that shattered the hushed murmuring instantly. He entered like a shadow given form, tall and imposing in a navy suit that looked painted onto his broad shoulders. Intricate black and gray tattoos spiraled from his wrists to disappear beneath rolled sleeves, roses and skulls marking him as clearly as a brand. Behind him, for men in dark suits fanned out with military precision. Oberto Romani. Everyone knew the name, knew to speak it only in whispers. His footsteps echoed down the center aisle with deliberate slowness, each strike of expensive leather against ancient stone a countdown to something I couldn't yet comprehend. The crowd parted instinctively, guests pressing themselves against pews as though proximity might leave a stain. His eyes found mine across the cathedral, dark and calculating, and I felt the impact like a physical blow. He stopped 3 meters away, close enough that I could smell cedar and bergamot and something darker. Fridiana Sagis. My name in his deep voice, touched with rough Sicilian edges, made my skin prickle. I managed the smallest nod, crushing my bouquet's stems. Your fiancé will not be joining you today. The words dripped with contempt. I know, I whispered. Good. Then we can discuss business without wasting time on comforting lies. He took one step closer. Terezio Bruno stole from me. 5 million euros from a shipment meant for Napoli 3 days ago. He used your wedding preparations as cover to liquidate his assets and disappear to Argentina. The words hit like stones. Around us, gasps and shocked murmurs rippled through the pews. But you already knew something was wrong, didn't you? His gaze sharpened. I've been watching you both for weeks, Fridiana. I know about your morning visits to Cafe Greco, your mother's chemotherapy appointments at Policlinico Gemelli, even the emerald bracelet your grandmother left you that you pawned last month to help pay for this wedding. He smiled without warmth. Terezio told you he'd repay you from his business profits. What he didn't tell you was that he'd gambled those profits away and then stole from me to cover his losses. My legs weakened. He knew everything. Every private moment, every secret struggle. When a man steals 5 million euros from my organization, Oberto continued softly, he leaves behind debts that must be collected from whatever assets remain. His eyes held mine. And you, cara mia, are the only asset of value he left standing at this altar. The cathedral seemed to tilt beneath my feet as understanding crashed over me in cold waves. Asset. He'd call me an asset, as if I were property to be claimed, collateral for a debt I hadn't incurred. You can't be serious. I breathed, though the steel in his eyes told me he was entirely serious. I'm always serious when it comes to business, Fridiana. He gestured toward the elaborate altar behind me, the flowers that had cost a fortune, the 200 guests frozen in various states of shock. You have a cathedral prepared, witnesses assembled, a ceremony ready to proceed. It would be wasteful not to use them. My fingers went numb around my bouquet. You're proposing marriage to settle his debt. I'm not proposing anything. His voice hardened, velvet politeness falling away to reveal steel beneath. I'm informing you how this will proceed. You will marry me today, and my name will offer you protection no amount of money could buy. Your family's reputation remains intact. The Saji's name stays clean. He paused, letting the weight settle over my shoulders. I collect the debt from those Terezio left behind. His parents' home in Trastevere, the one his mother inherited from her grandmother, will be seized by week's end. His father's heart condition makes him particularly vulnerable to stress, doesn't it? Ice flooded my veins. Signora Bruno, who'd welcomed me with tears of joy and taught me her grandmother's ragu recipe. Signor Bruno, whose hand shook when he walked me through their garden. You wouldn't. But even as I said it, I knew he would. I would. No hesitation, no remorse. And when the Bruno family cannot satisfy the debt, I will move to his business partners, then to anyone who aided his escape. The story of your family's association with theft and betrayal will echo through every respectable home in Rome for generations. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. Your mother, already struggling with her treatments, will find every door in society closed to her. Your cousin Bianca will lose her engagement to the Marchetti boy. Your name will become synonymous with disgrace. Each word was a blade, precise and cutting. I thought of my mother in the third row, her face pale with terror, already understanding what refusal would mean. How do I know you'll keep your word? My voice emerged stronger than I felt. How do I know this isn't just trading one nightmare for another? Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, perhaps, or recognition of unexpected resistance. Because I am not Terezio Bruno, he said, the words carrying absolute conviction. When I make a promise, I keep it. When I claim something as mine, I protect it with everything I have. He extended his hand toward me, palm up, an offering and a demand simultaneously. So I will ask you once, here before God and these witnesses, will you accept my protection and become La Signora Romani, or will you condemn innocent people to pay for a coward's crimes? The silence was absolute. I could hear candle flames flickering, my own ragged breathing, the thunderous pulse in my ears. I looked at his extended hand, broad and scarred, decorated with heavy silver rings that caught the light like warnings. The hand of a man who'd built an empire through means I didn't want to imagine. Then I thought of honor, of family, of protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. I have conditions, I heard myself say. Oberto's eyebrows rose fractionally, surprise or perhaps intrigue flickering across his features. Before he could respond, my mother's voice cut through the tension like breaking glass. Fridiana, no. She surged from the third row, her silk dress rustling as Bianca tried to hold her back. You can't do this, Cara. Not with him. Not like this. Her face was ashen, the carefully applied makeup unable to hide the fear etched into every line. The other guests remained frozen, caught between fascination and terror, none willing to intervene. Mama, please. I turned toward her, my voice low and urgent. Sit down. He's a monster, Fridiana. Her words came out strangled, tears streaming freely now. Everyone knows what he is, what he does. You'll disappear into his world, and we'll never see you again. Signora Saji's, Oberto said, his tone carrying a warning wrapped in silk. Your daughter is making a wise choice. I suggest you not interfere. Wise? My mother's laugh bordered on hysteria. You're threatening innocent people to force her into this. There's nothing wise about submitting to a man like you. Mama, stop. I moved toward her, my train catching on the altar steps. Think about Signora Bruno, about her husband's heart, about what will happen if I refuse. Let them deal with their own son's mistakes. Her hands gripped my arms, fingers digging in through the lace. This isn't your debt to pay, Fridiana. This isn't your burden, but it will become ours if I don't. My voice dropped to a whisper only she could hear. You know it will. He'll destroy us all, and you know it. Behind us, I heard my father's heavy footsteps as he approached. His face was grave, years of navigating Rome's social hierarchies evident in the careful neutrality of his expression. Maria, he said quietly to my mother, let her speak. She's our daughter, Antonio, our only child. My mother's voice broke. I won't let her sacrifice herself for people who aren't even family. The Brunos welcomed her as family, my father countered, though his jaw was tight. Would you have her stand by while they're destroyed? While our name is dragged through mud alongside theirs. Bianca appeared at my mother's side, her face pale. Fridiana, there has to be another way. We could leave Rome, go to Milano or Firenze. Start over somewhere he can't reach. I looked at my cousin, seeing the desperate hope in her eyes, and felt something inside me crack. She actually believed escape was possible. She didn't understand that men like Oberto Romani had reach that extended far beyond city limits. There is no other way, I said, the words tasting like ash. There never was. My mother's sob echoed through the cathedral. She pulled me against her, her body shaking. Then I failed you, cara mia. I failed to protect you. No, Mama. I held her tight, breathing in her familiar perfume. You taught me what honor means, what family means. I'm protecting you the only way I can. When I pulled back, I caught Oberto's gaze over my mother's shoulder. There was something in his eyes then, something raw and almost vulnerable before it vanished behind cold calculation. He understood sacrifice, I realized. He understood the weight of choosing between impossible options. Signora Sagis, he said, and his voice carried an unexpected gentleness. Your daughter will want for nothing under my protection. This I swear. My mother looked at him with open hatred. Your promises mean nothing to me. Perhaps not. He inclined his head slightly. But they should mean something to Fridiana, because I have never broken my word. His gaze shifted back to me. Now, Piccola, were these conditions of yours? I stepped away from my mother's embrace, straightening my spine despite the trembling in my legs. If I was going to do this, if I was truly going to bind myself to this dangerous man, then I would do it on my terms. Whatever small power I could claim in this moment, I would take. This marriage will be di convenienza, I said, my voice carrying through the cathedral with surprising steadiness. In name only, until I consent otherwise. A murmur rippled through the guests. Oberto's expression remained unreadable, but I caught the slight tilt of his head, the way his eyes narrowed with something that might have been interest. You will treat me with respect, both in public and in private, I continued, gathering momentum. I'm not your property to abuse or discard. I am entering this arrangement to settle a debt I did not incur, and I will be treated with a dignity befitting that sacrifice. Go on. His voice was soft, almost encouraging, as if he were enjoying this unexpected negotiation. My family will never be involved in your business affairs. Whatever you do, whatever world you operate in, they remain separate and untouched. My mother, my father, Bianca, anyone bearing the Sagis name stays clean. I took a breath, steadying myself for the final demand. And you will not harm Teresio's parents. Whatever their son has done, they are innocent. Your guarantee of their safety is non-negotiable. The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting to see if the ground would hold or crumble beneath my feet. Oberto studied me with an intensity that made my skin prickle, his dark eyes cataloging every detail of my face as if seeing me clearly for the first time. Then, slowly, deliberately, he smiled. It transformed his features from merely intimidating to something far more dangerous. The expression of a predator recognizing prey with unexpected teeth. You have spine, Fridiana Sagis. He took a step closer, closing the distance between us until I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. Most women in your position would simply weep and submit. But you stand here, in front of God and 200 witnesses, and make demands of me. His smile widened. I find that remarkably refreshing. Is that a yes? I force myself not to retreat, to hold my ground, even as his presence threatened to overwhelm me. It is an agreement with one addition. He reached out, his fingers catching my chin with surprising gentleness, tilting my face toward the light filtering through the stained glass windows. You will bear the name Romani with pride, not shame. In public, you will stand beside me as my equal, not cower as my victim. Whatever you think of me privately, whatever fear you harbor, you will present a united front to the world. This family I am giving you, this protection, it comes with expectations of loyalty. His thumb traced along my jaw, and I fought the urge to pull away from the intimate touch. The marriage remains de convenienza until you say otherwise, he continued, his voice dropping lower. Your family stays separate from my business. The Brunos remain unharmed, and I will treat you with the respect you demand. His eyes glittered with dark promise. But understand this, Piccola Mogli, once you truly become mine, once you cross that threshold of your own free will, there will be no going back. When you give yourself to me, it will be completely. Heat flooded my cheeks at the implication, at the certainty in his words that suggested my eventual surrender was inevitable rather than possible. Do we have an agreement? I asked, refusing to acknowledge the flutter of something dangerous in my chest. We do. He released my chin and extended his hand once more. Shall we proceed with our wedding, Signora Romani? I placed my trembling hand in his, feeling his fingers close around mine with firm possession, and seal my fate. The elderly priest stumbled forward, his Bible shaking in his weathered hands. He crossed himself quickly, twice, as if the additional blessing might offer protection from the unholy union he was about to consecrate. Around us, the cathedral held its collective breath, 200 guests witnessing something that felt less like a wedding and more like a claiming. We will begin, the priest said, his voice barely steady. Oberto kept my hand clasped firmly in his as we turned to face the altar, his thumb stroking once across my knuckles in a gesture that felt almost reassuring. Almost. But there was possession in that touch, ownership, a reminder that whatever words I'd extracted from him, I was still entering his world on his terms. The traditional vows felt surreal in my ears, ancient words about love and honor twisted into something darker by the circumstances. When the priest turned to Oberto, asking if he would take me as his wife, cherish and protect me, I felt the man beside me straighten, his voice filling the cathedral with absolute conviction. I do. 2 words, spoken in that deep baritone touched with Sicilian roughness, and they sounded less like a promise and more like a vow carved in stone. I will protect her with my life, honor her above all others, and any who threaten what is mine will answer to me with their blood. The priest blanched at the addition, but didn't dare correct him. When those same questions turned to me, my voice came from somewhere distant, detached. I do. The words felt like stepping off a cliff, free fall disguised as choice. Oberto released my hand only long enough to retrieve something from his jacket pocket. The ring he produced made several women in the front rows gasp audibly. A single diamond, massive and flawless, set in a band of platinum so simple it bordered on severe. No delicate setting, no ornate details, just raw, uncompromising clarity and strength. He took my left hand, and I felt him slide off the modest engagement ring Terezio had given me 3 months ago, the one with the small stone I'd thought was beautiful in its humility. Oberto handed it dismissively to one of his men without even looking at it, erasing that chapter of my life with casual efficiency. Then he slid his ring onto my finger, and the weight of it felt like a shackle. The diamond caught the light filtering through the stained glass, throwing fractured rainbows across my white dress, and I couldn't look away from it. This was real. This was happening. By the power vested in me. The priest rushed through the words as though speed might somehow absolve him. I pronounce you husband and wife. He crossed himself again. You may kiss your bride. Oberto's hand cupped my jaw, tilting my face upward with deliberate control. His dark eyes held mine for a heartbeat, searching for something I couldn't name, and then his mouth descended on mine. The kiss was brief but devastating. Not gentle, not tentative but claiming. His lips were firm against mine, demanding rather than asking, and I felt the heat of it shoot through my body like electricity. It lasted only seconds, but in those seconds I felt branded, marked as his in a way that went beyond the ring now, weighing down my hand. When he pulled back, his thumb traced my lower lip once, wiping away the smudge of my lipstick with casual intimacy. Mine, he murmured against my mouth, too quiet for anyone else to hear, and the word resonated through my chest like a bell. The cathedral erupted into uncertain applause, guests torn between social obligation and primal discomfort. But I barely heard it over the thundering of my own heartbeat. Oberto turned us to face the assembled guests, his arms sliding around my waist with proprietary firmness. The applause died quickly, uneasily, as his presence commanded silence without him speaking a word. "My friends," he addressed the crowd, and I noticed how the term carried layers of meaning, some friendly, some threatening. "You have witnessed the marriage of Fridiana Sagis to Oberto Romani. From this moment, she bears my name and my protection." His voice dropped, gaining an edge sharp enough to cut. "Anyone who questions this union or speaks disrespectfully of my wife will answer to me personally. I trust we understand each other." The silence that followed was absolute. Understanding and fear. He led me down the aisle, past rows of faces frozen between shock and calculation. My mother wept quietly in her pew. My father's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Bianca looked pale as death. But none of them moved, none of them protested, because they understood the same thing I did. This was done. Irrevocable. The reception had been planned for the Hotel de Russi's Terrace, and somehow Oberto's people had commandeered it entirely. As our car pulled up, I saw his men positioned at every entrance, their dark suits and watchful eyes transforming the elegant venue into something closer to a fortress. "I didn't plan for a reception," I said numbly as he helped me from the car, gathering my train with surprising care. "I did." His hand remained at the small of my back, guiding me forward. "The moment I learned of your wedding, I made arrangements. A Romani bride deserves a proper celebration." The terrace overlooked the Spanish Steps, Rome spread out below us in golden afternoon light. Under different circumstances, it might have been beautiful. Now it felt like a stage, and I was the unwilling performer. The guests filtered in gradually, torn between fleeing and offending the man who now controlled the room. Oberto kept me anchored to his side as he moved through the space with the ease of someone accustomed to command. He introduced me to men whose names I recognized from whispered conversations, men whose legitimate businesses barely disguised their true power. "This is Marco Ferretti, my consigliere," Oberto said, presenting a silver-haired man with calculating eyes, "and Luca Santoro, who oversees our shipping interests." Each man kissed my hand with exaggerated courtesy, their eyes assessing, measuring, trying to understand what kind of woman had caught their boss's attention. "La Signora Romani," they murmured, testing out my new title like a foreign phrase. "My wife is under my absolute protection," Oberto announced to the gathering, his voice carrying across the terrace. "She is untouchable. Any insult to her is an insult to me. Any threat to her will be answered with extreme prejudice." He raised a champagne glass. "To Fridiana, who has brought light into darkness." The toast was echoed with varying degrees of enthusiasm, but nobody dared refuse. An elderly society matron approached, her disapproval evident despite her forced smile. "Such an unexpected turn of events, Signora Romani. One hardly knows what to say." Before I could respond, Oberto's hand tightened at my waist. "Then perhaps say nothing at all, Contessa, unless it is congratulations." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "My wife has shown remarkable courage today. She deserves respect, not your thinly veiled judgment." The woman paled and retreated quickly. Others who'd been approaching with similar intentions thought better of it. "You don't have to fight my battles," I said quietly. "Yes, I do." He looked down at me, something fierce burning in his dark eyes. "You are La Signora Romani now. That means something in this city. It means no one touches you, no one disrespects you, no one makes you feel less than the queen you've become." His fingers traced at my spine. "Get used to it, Piccola. This is your life now." The mansion materialized from the darkness like something out of a Gothic novel, all iron gates and ancient stone walls hidden in the hills above Rome. Security cameras tracked our approach, and the gates swung open silently before we even reached them. His world, I realized, was one of constant surveillance and control. Inside, the opulence was understated but unmistakable. Marble floors, Renaissance art, that probably belonged to museums, furniture that whispered old money and older power. Staff appeared and disappeared like ghosts, taking my train, offering refreshments, vanishing before I could truly register their presence. Oberto guided me through corridors until we reached a set of double doors. "Your rooms," he said, pushing them open to reveal a suite larger than my family's entire apartment. "Mine are connected through there." He gestured to an adjoining door. "Per our agreement, it remains locked until you say otherwise." I stepped inside, feeling the weight of the day crash over me suddenly. My legs trembled, and I reached for the nearest chair before they could give out entirely. "Sit," Oberto commanded, not unkindly. He poured something amber from a crystal decanter and pressed the glass into my hands. "Drink." The liquor burned going down, but it steadied me enough to meet his eyes. "I need to know," I said, my voice hoarse. "I need to know exactly what you are, what I've bound myself to." He settled into the chair across from me, unbuttoning his jacket with deliberate movements. In the lamplight, his tattoos seemed to writhe, dark art covering dark deeds. "What do you want to hear, Friediana? That I'm a legitimate businessman." His laugh was bitter. "I control shipping routes, construction contracts, political appointments. I decide which businesses thrive and which burn. I have judges in my pocket and politicians who owe me favors they can never repay." "Have you killed people?" The question burst from me before I could stop it. His eyes went flat, emotionless. "Yes." The simple confirmation sent ice through my veins. "How many?" "Enough that I stopped counting years ago." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I'm the head of an organization that has existed for generations, Friediana. We operate in shadows. We enforce our own justice. And we do what is necessary to maintain order in a world that pretends we don't exist while benefiting from our services." "Necessary," I repeated, the word tasting like poison. "Men who betray us. Men who harm innocents under our protection. Men who traffic in things even we consider untouchable." His voice hardened. "I am not indiscriminate. I am not cruel for cruelty's sake. But I am ruthless when required, and I will not apologize for surviving in the world I was born into." Tears burned behind my eyes. And now I'm part of this world. Part of the blood and violence and... "No." He moved swiftly, kneeling before my chair, his hands covering mine. "You are separate. Sacred. The violence ends at these walls, Friediana. You will never be asked to participate, never be exposed to the ugliness. You and any children we might have, you exist in light while I handle the darkness. How can you separate them?" I pull my hand away. "How can you be a monster in the streets and expect to be a man in this house?" "Because I must." Raw emotion flickered across his face. "Because you're the first pure thing I've claimed in 20 years. And I will not let my world corrupt you. You will be protected, cherished, kept safe from everything I am and everything I do." He stood, towering over me. "That is my promise, Friediana. My vow. Whatever violence I commit, it will never touch you." I looked up at this dangerous, complicated man who now owned my name and wondered if such a separation was truly possible, or if darkness always eventually consumed the light. 3 months passed like pages turning in a book I hadn't chosen to read, but couldn't put down. October gave way to November, then December, and the Roman winter settled over the city with unusual cold. Through it all, Oberto kept his word with a precision that both comforted and unnerved me. The adjoining door remained locked. He never entered my rooms without invitation, never pressed for more than our agreement allowed. Yet his presence filled the house like a constant hum of electricity, impossible to ignore even when he wasn't visible. Mornings found us sharing breakfast in the sunlit conservatory, a ritual that had developed without discussion. He read financial papers while I worked through correspondence, the silence between us comfortable in a way that surprised me. Sometimes his hand would brush mine as he passed the coffee, and the contact sent sparks through my skin that I tried desperately to ignore. "Your mother's treatments," he said one morning without preamble. "Dr. Castellano is the best oncologist in Rome. I've arranged for her to see him." I looked up sharply. "I didn't ask you to do that. You didn't need to ask." He met my eyes over his newspaper. She's family now. My responsibility. It was always like this. Small acts of consideration that chipped away at my resistance. The way he ensured my favorite pastries appeared at breakfast. How he'd converted an entire wing of the mansion into a library when he noticed me reading. The driver who appeared whenever I needed to visit my parents, never questioning, never reporting back what he'd overheard. You're trying to buy my affection, I accused one evening as we shared dinner. I'm trying to honor you. He set down his wine glass with deliberate care. There's a difference, Friediana. Everything I give you, you've earned simply by bearing the burden of my name with grace. That grace was tested whenever his business intruded. The nights he came home late, tension radiating from him like heat. The hush phone calls he took behind closed doors, emerging with his jaw tight and his eyes cold. The mornings I found him already awake, staring out windows, as if calculating moves in some invisible chess game. But he never brought the violence home. Never let me see the monster he admitted to being. With me, he was unfailingly courteous, his old-world Italian manners on full display. He held doors, pulled out chairs, stood when I entered a room. It would have been almost comical if it weren't so devastatingly effective. You're different with me. I observed one night when we'd lingered over dinner longer than usual, the wine making me bold. I'm exactly who I've always been with you. His eyes tracked my movements as I rose to look out at the city lights. Respectful, protective. Perhaps you're simply seeing what others refuse to acknowledge, that even monsters can have honor. I felt him approach before I heard him, my body attuned to his presence in ways that terrified me. He stopped just behind me, close enough that his warmth radiated against my back, but not touching, never touching without permission. Do you still fear me, Friediana? The question hung in the air between us. I should have said yes. Should have maintained that barrier of fear that kept things simple, kept our arrangement purely transactional. No, I whispered instead, and felt him exhale slowly. I fear what I'm starting to feel. His hand rose, hovering near my shoulder, asking permission. When I didn't move away, his fingers settled gently against my bare skin, and electricity shot through every nerve. Good, he murmured, his breath warm against my ear. Because I stopped being able to pretend indifference weeks ago. I turned in the circle of his almost embrace, tilting my head back to meet his eyes. In the dim lamplight, they were fathomless, dark pools that reflected my own conflicted face back at me. 3 months ago, these eyes had terrified me. Now, they made my heart race for entirely different reasons. When did it stop being pretense for you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The moment you demanded conditions at the altar. A slight smile curved his lips. You were terrified, humiliated, trapped, and still you found the courage to negotiate with a man everyone else fears. I realized then that Terezio Bruno was a fool twice over. Once for stealing from me, and once for abandoning the most remarkable woman I'd ever encountered. His hand slid from my shoulder down my arm, leaving fire in its wake, until his fingers tangled with mine. The weight of his ring, once feeling like a shackle, now felt like an anchor keeping me grounded. I thought I could maintain distance, I admitted. Thought I could live in your house, bear your name, and keep my heart carefully separate. But you've been nothing but honorable, patient, kind, even in your own way. Kind. He tested the word as if it were foreign. I don't think anyone has called me kind in 20 years. You are, though. With me. I brought my free hand up to trace the edge of one of his tattoos where it disappeared beneath his rolled sleeve. You've given me security I never thought possible. Respect I didn't know I deserved. Protection that extends to everyone I love. My voice caught. You've honored every promise, kept every vow, even the ones you didn't want to make. His jaw tightened. The wanting was never in question, Friediana. The waiting has been torture. Then maybe we've both waited long enough. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. His eyes searched mine, looking for hesitation, for doubt, finding only resolution. Are you certain? His voice was rough, strained. Once you cross this threshold, once you choose me freely, I won't be able to let you go. This stops being an arrangement and becomes something real, something permanent. It already is real. I stepped closer, eliminating the careful distance we'd maintained for months. It became real when you defended me to the Contessa, when you arranged my mother's treatment, when you started reading at breakfast just to keep me company. My hand flattened against his chest, feeling his heart thundering beneath my palm. I choose you, Oberto, not because of the debt, not because I have no other option, but because in these 3 months you've shown me what it means to be truly valued. Something fierce and possessive blazed in his eyes. Say it again. I choose you. I rose on my toes, bringing my lips close to his. I am yours, not by the debt, but by my own will. The sound he made was half growl, half relief. His arms came around me properly then, pulling me flush against him, and his mouth crashed down on mine with none of the restraint he'd shown at the altar. This kiss was hunger and promise and 3 months of carefully controlled desire, finally unleashed. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. The door between our rooms, I whispered, "Open it." He pulled back enough to look at me, searching one final time for certainty. Whatever he saw in my face satisfied him, because he swept me into his arms with surprising ease, my dress pooling over his arms like water. Once I carry you through that door, you become mine in every way. His voice was dark promise and deadly serious. No more separate rooms. No more careful distance. You'll be my wife in truth, Friediana. I wrapped my arms around his neck, feeling the rightness of this choice settle into my bones. Then carry me through, husband, and show me what it means to belong to Oberto Romani. His smile was devastating as he moved toward the adjoining door, and I realized that somehow, impossibly, I'd fallen for the monster who claimed me. The debt was paid, the arrangement fulfilled, but what remained between us was something far more dangerous than obligation. It was choice. It was desire. It was the beginning of something that looked remarkably like love, born from darkness but reaching toward light. And as he kicked open the door and carried me into his world completely, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.